Hello, my name is Jennifer Nolen. I am an attorney at Sterk Family Law Group, and I'm here with Terry Fogarty to talk to you today about cohabitation agreements. What is a cohabitation agreement? So glad you asked. It's a document that gives description in situations where you have two parties that are not married, but they are merging financial interests as well as interest in property. So the document will dictate both interests, who would be responsible in terms of the financial payments for mortgage and other aspects of agreed upon or mutual property. So to talk a little bit today, Terry, if you would weigh in on purchasing property and whether you're seeing the growing trends of persons who are not married purchase property together.
Sure, Jen, thank you. My name is Terry Fogarty. I am the estate planning attorney at Sterk Family Law, and I also have real estate practice. And we have seen a lot within the Chicagoland and the surrounding areas, a pretty big uptick in sales and purchases recently, which is great. I think that everybody who was putting buying or selling their home on hold due to COVID in the last few months has kind of decided, well, this needs to get done, so they're doing it. And I have experienced a lot of folks who are not married purchasing property together. They may be a couple. Honestly, I've had friends purchase property together, and they all just kind of assume in going into these transactions that everything will kind of work itself out, right? Usually, if it's a couple, they're only looking towards the future. They're thinking, oh, great, we're taking our first step. We're getting this property together. The same with friends. I've had friends purchase property together with very high hopes of, splitting the cost of the property and hopefully reaping the benefits of the property then when they sell it later on and, maybe go their separate ways or whatever they're planning on doing. So a lot of folks don't really think about the need for having some kind of agreement as to how the property is going to be paid for, either initially or throughout the life of the mortgage, or how the bills are going to be split, or at the sale of the property, how things will be split up. And that's kind of the point of having that cohabitation agreement, is just kind of having those set guidelines in the beginning of the relationship, of the purchase of the property, so that you know what guidelines you need to follow, who's responsible for what, and it really can save you a lot of trouble later on. Would you agree with that, Jen?
Absolutely, absolutely. In the practice of family law, specifically with paternity cases where two individuals may have, like you said, started out and said, we want to make this step, we want to make this major purchase, and they don't have an agreement as to repayment, for example, of the down payment. If you have someone who made a larger portion of the down payment, there's no agreement or terms to say how that's going to be repaid from the sales proceeds in the event that the property will be sold. And I see a lot of the cohabitation agreements that I have drafted, we include the financial considerations for mortgage payments, for overlapping financial accounts. So if you're merging bank accounts, if there's going to be a joint account to pay for expenses or repairs or mortgages, those things are detailed in the cohabitation agreement that you might not think about when you're thinking we're moving on, we're getting property and we're establishing this life. That's great, but you also have to think of the other side. If things happen, you have to think about something in place to guard your interest as well as the other party's interest. Also in family law, what I'm seeing in some actions are determining what happens with the pets. I know it's kind of interesting. It's one of those new areas of law of what happens to pets. But if you have a pet together and you're considering a cohabitation agreement, I would say put your decisions or your plans for sharing expenses for the pet, as well as what will happen in the event of a breakup or separation, what will happen to the pets if the relationship were to terminate. I would suggest speaking to an attorney, and as Terry alluded to, some things happen. There's some nuanced cases that you might want to speak to an attorney regarding estate planning as well. Wouldn't you agree, Terry, in terms of cohabitation and estate planning?
I would agree. I really think that one of the major milestones in people's lives is purchasing property. or even renting property. If you were looking to do some type of cohabitation agreement in relation to that. But purchasing property is definitely a major life milestone, and a lot of people do go into it, without really thinking through exactly what's going to happen. Like you alluded to before, one partner may be putting down a much larger down payment than the other, with the other partner hopefully making that up over time so that they have more of an equal share. Or maybe one partner's planning on paying, bills X, Y, and Z, and the other partner's, in exchange for putting down that large down payment. But the problem comes up when you do run into circumstances where those things don't happen as were discussed, or when new expenses come up over time, unexpected things, and then all of a sudden somebody's paying this, somebody's paying that, somebody loses their job, somebody's just not able to make a payment, and then when it comes down to it, when you go to sell whatever property you've got, you do run into that issue of kind of a he said, she said, I paid this, you paid that, well, here's my receipt, here's this, here's that, and that really is the issue that you're trying to avoid. So really, it's when you're thinking about a cohabitation agreement, don't think of it as something that is in any way negative towards yourself or towards your partner, the person you're entering into the cohabitation agreement with. If you're going to have that discussion with them, just tell them, look, this is a way for us to protect ourselves and to really simplify things as time goes on, so that we know exactly what we're responsible for. And we know exactly where we're supposed to be. And, going back to what you said about estate planning, purchasing property is an excellent time to do any type of estate planning. And I would say, if you are executing a cohabitation agreement, it's a great time to also take a look at an estate plan, because that's going to allow you to not only specify exactly what happens in that cohabitation agreement between you and the other person who's buying the property with you, but you can then also designate what happens to that property if something were to happen to you. So it is another very important aspect.
Perfect. Yeah, I would agree with you. So I would say, if you're going to purchase property with someone you're not married to, you should look into talking to an attorney about drafting a cohabitation agreement for you. Again, like Terry said, it's not any negative suggestion. It's a positive suggestion to protect all parties' and interests and property, and to make sure everything runs smoothly for you.
It really is. And, as your real estate attorney, we're there to basically address every concern that you have. And I always find that it's very difficult. I think we all find that it's very difficult to address a concern that we're not aware of. So, if you have any concerns about what you're getting into, the relationship that you have, or who would be responsible for what, just bring up your concerns with your attorney. And as always, we're always happy to help here at Sterk Family Law.
I second that. Always happy to help with anything you have family law related, real estate related, estate planning related. We're here to help. Thank you, Terry, for your time.
Thanks, Jen.